uppercut, sonic boom! Well, hello there, humans and berserklings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. Welcome back to Channel. I'm Bushka, and today we're going to be talking about the Mark 47 Mutant. I want to talk about the pros, the cons, that's the goods and the bads of this weapon, and there are plenty of them. It's quite weird. It's a weapon that I really enjoy. I've been running a lot as a primary AR at the moment, for a couple of reasons. One is I'm so sick of the vanilla, which is get an M416 and spray a whole hell of a lot, and it's a difficult weapon to use. It's a challenge, and so I do quite enjoy that. It's also a weapon that has some huge potential positives when you're playing in the game, and it can really rebalance the bad guys when it works. When it doesn't work, it's really, really tough, and it's not very forgiving. It's been both buffed and nerfed in the most recent patch, and I love that about it because it's given it a very, very solid space for me now. It does something very well, and that's what I love about a weapon. When it does something very well, then you can use that to exploit gameplay styles and mechanics. What it does very well now is just massive amounts of front-loaded damage. For instance, even when you're in bad situations like this, where I have very, very little in the hit point pool and a guy's pushing me, it can just do huge amounts of front-loaded damage. What's front-loaded damage, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked, because it's very, very important. Now, the number is 47.9. That's its base round into a no, as Brett snakes his way across the top of the Sedok rooftops. That's Brett and Turninet, who did the hard yards with me in a training room to get the numbers, and then I went on to the range to figure out the rate of fire and all that kind of stuff. And so I can present that to you guys right here and right now. They buffed two things on it. They buffed the damage and the amount of times you can press the button per second, basically, to make it burst fire. And it's right back to where it was in the good old days when the M16A4 was the only real burst rifle. You can get two bursts out in about 0.2 of a second. Why is that important? Well, because you now do the same base damage on your gun as an AKM. That means that in 0.2 of a second, you can fire two bursts, which means 4 rounds, which means 4 rounds of 47.9 damage, 762. And that means you can take out a level 2 vest in 0.2 of a second, which is really, really fast. It's massively fast. And as you're going to see from a lot of these clips, I'm running the Mutant as a primary AR because of that potential massive damage output. It has huge negatives, which again makes me really happy because it's a unique weapon that's challenging and fun to play. The negatives, let's talk about them, because there are certainly negatives. It has a lot of recoil, that's obvious. It has very small loadout in terms of magazine size. It's only 20 versus the 30 as a baseline, which you get in the 5.56 ARs and pretty much all the ARs. You can up that to 30, but that's still not a lot when you're running versus multiple targets. The shell velocity is absolutely arse. The shell velocity on this gun is a paltry 697 meters a second. Compare that to, say, an M16A4, which is 937 meters a second, and you start to understand why it's not a great gun to be using at range like this. They basically have to be standing still before you're going to hit them. Whereas with an M16A4, it's very, very good at hitting targets on the move because lead time is next to nothing. The lead time on this thing is significantly above what you're going to get on an M16A4. The other thing that's really tough about it is without being fully kitted out, it's not nearly as effective. But once you get a stock on it, once you get, attack stock, once you get a vertical foregrip, once you whack a compensator on there and an extended AR mag, this thing is a beast up close and personal. Like anything that's really good, though, there is a major drawback, and obviously that is the fact that it's a tap-fire weapon, and that means that if you are playing as a thumb player, then this is a very, very tough weapon to run. And a lot of people play as a thumb player. Even using gyro and such, or as a claw player, it's easier to just use a an AR that's full auto. And to get over this and learn how to use the Mark 47 Mutant correctly, I would strongly recommend going and rolling a whole buttload of TDM games. The idea behind it is that it will make you aim better. It will make you a better player. Like tracking targets like this in TDM with a full auto is a lot easier than it is using the Mark 47 Mutant. And it will teach you the absolute beastly power of this gun when you can connect with a double burst in a row. It's firing... Okay, I think a lot of people need to get this through their heads. And that's the concept of front-loading damage. So the Mutant fires 2 rounds immediately. Bang, bang, at 0. Whereas an AK will go 0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. The Mutant does it by front loading. It goes bang, bang, 0, and then bang, bang at 0.2. Now, the longer these guns fire, the closer those 2 damage outputs come together. But that's what I love about the Mutant, is its uniqueness in that it delivers it quicker at the very, very start and then fades off. So it's like a sprinter. Whereas an automatically firing weapon like a UMP or an AKM or an M416, it will over time have a steadier rate of fire and a steadier damage output. The Mutant is all about that right at the start. And that's why it's very, very difficult for a lot of people to run the gun, because what happens is if they screw up that opening sequence, if they have to aim and press the button and track targets and all that kind of thing, then that's difficult. Like if you're moving like this outside and using the vault button and moving around and consistently trying to outplay people, this can be a tough thing to do. That's the whole genius of it for me. I find that more interesting than running a very vanilla loadout. So running a Mutant and a Mini 14 is absolutely a hat tip to your skill, and it's a challenge. And there is a reward for it. There is definitely a reward. I can't move up here because every time I try and move up, there's a guy on my left that is overlooking this arena and he's protecting his mate from me moving up. It's a terrible thing, and I get away with it here. I'm like trying to move up, but for some reason he stops shooting at me, and that's great. And then he's just been thirsting everyone. Even though I keep tapping into him, I'm not sure why his mate's done, but I've got no choice, so I'm going to move up. And you can see how quickly that the Mutant does the business. The rate of fire, let's talk a little bit more about the limiter. The limiter is... it stops you from just absolutely flogging the gun. And that means that even when I was doing testing with the weapon, I would find that sometimes I could fire off a full round in 2.7 seconds. Other times, the worst would be 3.3. And if the gun is not fully equipped, and especially at any kind of range, you can see the recoil. It's redonkulous. It's horrible. So... do I think that this is going to be the new meta, the Mark 47 Mutant? No. Do I think it has a place in the game? Hell yeah. Like, this is now a gun that you can land on, pick up on a hot drop, and if you're good enough, you can get value from it, and it can be tremendously successful in helping you. And if you're coming around a corner and you've got a fire, then you're looking at a perfect world where you have the same kind of damage output as a Mark 14. But is it realistic to get that all the time? Hell, it's not going to happen all the time. I mean, you can see in this clip, I nail this bloke. That's great, but his mate cleaned me up just a second later. Like, it's not really an easy gun to use. It's an enjoyable gun to use, and it now has a place in the meta. And they did that really for me by specializing it. It's not as good as other weapons in the long run, but it's something that you can pick up and run with and enjoy, which is where I'm with it. The thing I haven't talked about here is how I don't feel like they did that with the M16 at all. The M16, it was a very stable platform, and now it's become a more recoil affected weapon, which isn't nice. And that's turned it into a weapon that I think has kind of killed what it did well, which was that mid-range close range bursting. The Mutant is far more about close range and far less about mid-range now. We don't have to pretend anymore. The M16 though, the M16 is suffering because that third round really makes the recoil kick, and at close range the third round often misses altogether, whereas the Mutant's 2-round burst is very, very tight compared to the M16's 3-round burst, and that allows you to do all kinds of nasty things with it at a much closer combat area. I hope that was useful. I hope that helped you guys. I can't, like, look at that. I got both those kills. The Mutant does not muck around if you know how to aim and you know how to use the bursts. And to do that, you need to get into TDM and work the numbers and figure out how to use it. It's well worth learning this because it will make you a better DMR player. It will make you a better M16A4 player. It'll make you a player who's just better all round, and that's a good thing, in my opinion, in PUBG Mobile. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Look after yourselves, and as always, stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.